Hey Sagittarius, welcome to your timeless reading. I trust that this will find you at the time and place that it will most resonate with you. And as always, use your discernment when listening to tarot readings on the internet, because I am just a girl looking at cards with pictures on them and saying some words. And if you're like, that doesn't sound right, then I guess it's not right for you. My intention is, of course, just to provide confirmation and maybe some food for thought. I'm pulling from my Rider-Waite deck and my Iris Oracle. I started your reading, but I just really wanted to pull more cards, and the message didn't feel totally clear, and sometimes when I start over, the message I get a little bit of a deeper connection with it. Maybe I'm not going to. I think the universe is like, hey, we gave you the cards you need, go with it. Great. So, to start, there's definitely a lot of paradoxical feeling type stuff going on. Endings and beginnings. And both a feeling of excitement and a little bit of overwhelm. And there's also... Yes, so let's just show you the cards. The Magician in reverse. The Chariot upright. Six of Wands in reverse. Two of Pentacles in reverse. Nine of Pentacles in reverse. Eight of Cups in reverse. And the Death card. Additionally, from my Iris Oracle, we got Laughing and Crying. And we got Scrymere. So, I wanted to start with Death and the Eight of Cups in reverse. With these two, Death is transformation. Death is, I would say it's usually kind of an internal transformation, internal ending. It feels more about your personal identity to me than about necessarily what's going on in the external world. To me, that would be kind of like the World card is more those types of larger endings and beginnings. But I think another thing to consider with Death is that even when we are changing inside, that does reflect external circumstances often. For example, maybe I'm stepping into my worthiness and deservingness, and as a result, certain relationships are not really sustainable anymore, and I'm having to leave them with love. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with this Eight of Cups in reverse, is like there is a need, an emotional need, to walk away from some situations based on how you've changed and based on kind of what's new for you. But with it in reverse, it feels like it's hard to let go. It feels like it's hard to move forward and move on. While at the same time, as I said, there was like paradoxical stuff going on. You got the Chariot, and the Chariot is a card of like all steam ahead, right? Like I'm taking the reins on my life, I'm moving forward, I'm ready to like see what's next, I'm kind of reclaiming my agency, and so we'll come back to it. But I think it's interesting. It feels very emotional. I mean, Laughing and Crying is a card of purging emotions. I could read from the book. Why not? I felt called to, so I will. 45. 45. Let it all out. Cry, laugh, scream if you need to. Let your body have a full release of all that has been cooped up in there. There are those of us who will hold on to things for years, and when that one thing happens that makes us cry till our body is numb, it can clean out those spider webs. It may make you feel like a crazy person, but we all do it. And with Death, that's exactly what I'm feeling with these two. Sagittarius, I think that you really just need a big purge. And an emotional purge, and an emotional purge on a physical level of whatever your body has been storing for so long needs to come out in some way. And so maybe that is screaming. Maybe that is doing like somatic therapy. I've heard that works for some people. But your life wants to move forward. We got the Chariot, and there's like this desire for new beginnings. That's what's on the other side of Death, is rebirth. Some people, in fact, just consider death to be the rebirth card. For me, with death, I often think of butterflies and just how the caterpillar and the butterfly are basically of the same essence. They are the same being, and yet they're completely different. And so it feels like you're stepping into really large internal changes. And a lot of that, I think, requires you to somehow release some emotional stuff you've been holding on to. There might be resistance. And this doesn't have to be like a literal walking away from emotional situations, but it is about you releasing the weight of what you've been holding on to, what you've been carrying, what you have felt. Kind of like, this is just what I'm getting, is like emotional sunk costs into situations, right? Like, maybe part of the reason why it's hard for you to maybe metaphorically move on, if not literally, is just that you invested a lot in certain ideas, certain beliefs, certain kind of like outcomes that you were hoping to manifest. We got this in reverse. And again, nothing like too concrete or like specific is coming to me, but I think it's like with the death and this, it's saying, hey, don't look at your life up to this point as having been wasted. Don't look at your efforts or your energy or what you invested in as having been not a payoff. Like, kind of there's a need to reframe, maybe actually with the Nine of Pentacles in reverse, like, and the Six of Wands. I think you need to perhaps, Sagittarius, reframe your definition of success and what success means. Because it feels like whatever that is, whatever your ideas of success and fulfillment have been up to this point, they were maybe limited or based in capitalism or based in just outdated old ideas of who you thought you were, right? And you've changed. And so there's really just kind of like a need for like a reboot, like updating new software in like a spiritual way. And again, I think part of the new upgrade for you is about not really holding on to the attachment of the idea of like, I need to stay where things aren't working so that I can get them to work. I think that feels like a very big, important part of the reading, is not sticking around out of habit. And whether, again, that's a literal place that you're in or just a metaphorical state of mind about, like here's an example that is I'm getting, is maybe I've been thinking about a screenplay I want to write, right? And like, I've been working on it. I'm think about showbiz stuff a lot, so forgive me. But purely an example, I've been writing the screenplay, I've been working on it for 3 years, and it just never seems to come together. And I'm kind of like realizing, oh, you know what? Like, I'm changing, and I've been trying so hard to manifest this thing that just doesn't really feel like it ever clicks into place. And I'm realizing in this process that like really what I was interested in was this kind of idea of success and victory. Like, the reason I came up with the idea in the first place wasn't because I really loved the story or because like my heart was in it, but because I thought, oh, that's really marketable and that's really going to make me a lot of money. And if I can just bust this out, then I'm going to be able to sell it for millions of dollars, right? Like, just kind of that, whatever it was, your intentions or what was driving you, your idea of success and fulfillment was kind of coming from this like emptier place. And that's why it was difficult to manifest, because it wasn't like really truly in alignment with your soul's growth. And now maybe you've been through some shit, right? Like, even if you're listening to this in 2026, I'm doing this reading as of 2021. We're kind of like, the pandemic is shifting and like things are seemingly getting better and we've all been in quarantine for a long time. So it's like Sagittarius, maybe in this time you've really like sat with the fact that like, God, I just really don't care about this story. Like, I don't like these characters. I don't care what's happening to them. That's why it's so hard. And I'm realizing as I'm dying to old parts of myself that I do have new ideas. I do have like areas I want to move forward in. And so I maybe just have to like abandon this thing I've been working on for a long time. And maybe that's hard just because it's like, oh my God, I spent so much time on it. But, and that's the example. It could be a relationship with a person. It could be a living situation. It could be times put into like a corporate ladder that's not really paying off. Whatever it is, the important thing I think that the universe wants you to do is really just to give yourself a fresh, clean slate. Purge all the grief that you might have about those sunk emotional costs. Laugh about how absurd it is that you tried for so long. It's something that didn't work. Maybe you've been in a relationship for 7 years and that person's not your person and you're gonna have to move on. But again, I think what's important in all of this is to reframe your ideas of success and fulfillment and what this chapter of your life up to this point has meant. If you think about death, if you think about a literal caterpillar turning into a butterfly, a caterpillar, what do they have to do in their lifetime? They have to eat a lot, right? Like, they have to eat a lot so that they get energy, so that when they go into the chrysalis, they can transform. And so I think the universe just wants you to look at what your life has been up to this point as like, you did everything that you needed to do at the time with the information you had, and all of it led to this culmination point in this moment where you're able to have this transformation in these profound ways. Oh, goodness. I'm unfortunately going to pause this, but I will come back to it. Okay, Sagittarius. Yes, I was talking about the caterpillar eating. That was important because that's how it transformed. So as you're like moving away from whatever wasn't working in your life and purging it emotionally and hopefully physically from your body in whatever way resonates with you, that could be a fast, that could be exercise, that could be screaming into a pillow, that could be breath work, that could be just laughing and crying. Whatever it is, like releasing all these pent up things in your body. And then I think it's like, yeah, now moving forward, you can reframe what this means to you, what victory means. It's kind of the 6 of Wands is like, this guy is in a parade and he's like being celebrated and like he did something. But, I think with victory and with the notion of 6 of Wands and that type of success of like being celebrated, maybe it's like, kind of connecting deeper on level Sagittarius of like, what is fulfilling to me, because that's like the core of who I am. An example I'm getting for Sagittarius, like, you guys are kind of like known as being world travelers and people who like to like look into philosophy and education and kind of like expand your mind. And so maybe in the past, this is just an example, but like maybe in the past you were like really hung up on more traditional ideas of success. Like, I literally need to be in a parade, being like seen by other people to know that I've done a good job. But now you're connecting with like, I just love to travel, and traveling is not something other people are necessarily going to like hold a parade in my honor because I've traveled. It's not necessarily something that I'm doing for other people, but I'm doing it for myself, and that in and of itself is a victory. Like, to live a lifestyle where I'm able to kind of come and go as I please and have that kind of autonomy and that freedom and that kind of sense of adventure. That's what real success means to me. And maybe in terms of this, it's like maybe about like finances and stuff. Like, before, you like maybe were staying at a job you didn't really like because it was like prestigious on the surface and you were making a lot of money. But maybe you're kind of like, you know what, a truly fulfilling life to me is having less money but having it on my own terms where I'm making my own hours and able to do things like take those like vacations and trips that are really like making my soul full, right? And I think that's kind of the shift, is that moving forward, death, you're a completely new Sagittarius, so kind of purified Sagittarius, I would say, especially with the purging. And so I think you're, even though it might feel hard, because it feels like, again, like there's this idea and notion of waste and like having invested and stuff and all of that, it's like, just move forward. Like, I think the universe is also kind of saying, like, just go ahead, and the past is in the past. And again, fresh, clean slate. That feels like a big part of your message, is just don't worry about time spent. It led you here, and now you have everything ahead of you. Everything is ahead of you. It's not behind you, and it's going to be new and different. I got the Scry Mirror, and this card is kind of about looking into a mirror to see the future. I guess I can read from that as well. 65. There is this idea that to see beyond is something only someone with special gifts or powers can achieve. Well, you have those special gifts and powers as well. You'll be surprised what will appear to you when you allow yourself to look and listen. So, to me, this card is kind of saying, like, you have, and we got the Magician, and he came in reverse. So it's like kind of like, okay, hey, Sagittarius, you're moving forward into new territory, kind of taking the reins of your own life, having really gotten in touch with yourself on a deeper level where you are changed internally and not really connected to the same old ideas of what was important to you, and you're redefining this. And now there might be this sense of pressure, perhaps, where it's like, hey, well, what's next? Or where should I go? Or, well, what should I do? I am connected to the idea with the Magician being in reverse that maybe you don't need to know. That maybe the way you manifest moving forward isn't necessarily about visualizing the goal. And the Scry Mirror is like kind of trying to look forward, but I think what's really important for you is maybe to feel forward. So, and we also got the Two of Pentacles in reverse, which kind of to me indicates a little bit of like imbalance between the mind and the heart. To me, Two of Pentacles is internal balance, mind, heart balance, and it being a little topsy-turvy just with all of these large grand changes that are occurring. And I think, to me, Scry Mirror, I would look more into the mirror to kind of reconnect, or to just connect on any level with your sense of personal identity and who you are, rather than what defining yourself by what it is that you do or what you have, because that seems like kind of what was going on in the past anyway, which is what you're kind of purging and moving on from. So now when you look in the mirror is kind of like, well, who is that Sagittarius I see staring back straight at me? Why doesn't my reflection show who I am, or whatever, Mulan? But I would say if you wanted to do manifesting work, it would be kind of like, get your journal out and be like, okay, the person I am is free, and the person I am is really charming with the people they meet along the way, and I'm really good with people. I have really good boundaries, so I'm able to show up fully when I am available to, and I'm able to kind of carve time for myself, and I'm really happy a majority of the time because I do have this autonomy to kind of make my own rules about how I live my life, and I feel very fulfilled by that. Like, right, like, everything I'm saying is just kind of about how I am and how I feel and how I'm approaching my life, rather than like, oh, I won an Oscar and I'm written up in all these magazines and I'm very important and I'm spending time in Bali and Italy and blah blah blah. That's what I'm getting with the Scry Mirror and the Magician, is like, as you're kind of inching forward and moving forward, you might feel out of balance. So the way to reclaim a sense of balance and reclaim a sense of like direction is not in the knowing of where it is that you're going. Like, I'm put in mind of George Harrison's, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. But what you want is for you to be navigating those twists and turns on the basis of what is like internally making you feel really good, and like who you're seeing, right? Like, not just like what you're seeing, but like who is the person who's living that life, right? And how do they feel about it, and how do they feel about themselves? You're looking at yourself. It's like your relationship and your identity with yourself is what your life is about moving forward, and that's what you're manifesting, is your ideal self, not like your ideal circumstances. Because your ideal self too we all are going to be faced with adverse circumstances in our lives, because that's life. And so your ideal self will be able to also take all the stuff that maybe ends up being hard along the way and just kind of like roll with the punches a little bit, right? And deal with like maybe that topsy-turviness, as opposed to getting really fixated on a certain outcome, and then when life throws its curveballs at you, getting like disappointed and like hung up on it in the same ways that you have in the past, which was the whole point of this whole transformation death process that you've been going through in releasing all of that grief and like emotional sunk costs, as I said, and reapproaching the success and ideas of victory and fulfillment from a more internally guided place rather than outcome driven. And yes, you're moving forward and there is direction, but the direction is also kind of got this freewheeling, like, we'll see where the road takes us energy as well, right? It's kind of a combination of getting in the car with a map and like kind of having a general sense, but then really being open to the adventure of it all, which as a Sagittarius, I would think that you would love a little bit of adventure and intrigue and mystery and surprise in the process anyway. Beautiful. Well, I mean, I feel like that's your reading. It's kind of short. I could pull whatever. I could see if anything else wants to come out. We have a little bit more time together. Okay. Nice. Wow. Oh. Okay. Oh. Okay. Beautiful. Well, we got Ace of Pentacles in reverse, King of Pentacles in reverse, Seven of Swords in reverse, and Knight of Cups and King of Cups. I feel like this is just further confirmation of what I've been saying. But Seven of Swords in reverse, I think it's like, don't betray yourself, right? Don't trick yourself into thinking there's a right way of doing things, and don't kind of like talk yourself out of this really deep emotional clarity that feels like it's coming in and that is very important to you in this new kind of divinely guided section of your life. And then we got these two pentacles, Ace, and so it's kind of like, I think the universe is saying, hey Sagittarius, I'm way less concerned with the physical material abundance that you manifest in your life. I'm really way less concerned with your career and what it is you do and what your like legacy you're building, and I'm way more concerned with how you're feeling and how you are flowing through your emotions and how you're holding space for your emotions and how you're honoring your truth and what you feel on a physical, emotional level. We got the Knight and the King, and it's kind of this progression of just you really mastering your own sense of self and your own sense of like emotional intuitive guidance, I would say, and really also being able to offer that for other people. And I know you're a fire sign, but you're still passionate and you're still an emotional person. You're still a human. So I think for you to like really master this element of water, it just feels like kind of like that's your superpower as a Sagittarius, is to be kind of like able to surprise people with your own kind kind of internal compass navigation based on feelings, as opposed to really being out externally directed by the need to prove something about yourself, or to like plant a particular business seed in the ground and have it be important and have you this feels like Earth is not an ego energy by any means, but as I'm picking it up, and particularly in the context of the Seven of Swords in reverse, it's like, don't let your ego drive the boat anymore. Like, let your heart and your soul drive the boat. And that's kind of what I'm picking up with these. This isn't like all earth, hashtag not all earth signs are materialistic, assholes. It's not the case. It's just sort of like how this is being read in the context of everything else. Seven of Swords. Don't worry about trying to get away with things. Just kind of like see how it goes. Anyway, I don't know if you can hear, but I have a cat that is crying for my attention, and I feel like we did get your reading in, and it's a good message. It's kind of like follow your heart. Pretty simple, but also not that simple, but you'll totally figure it out and do it, because it sounds like that's kind of what's in store for you in this chapter of your life. If you liked this message, then, like and subscribe, because it makes me feel good when I get clicks and likes. I'm the same as any other person on the internet in that regard, and I also leave a comment if you have comments to leave. And I love you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!